All right, Beau. Do you want to start by being accountable for being late? Hey, Beau, did you leave? Hey, Beau, did you let the other people on the podcast down?
I might have, and I'm sorry, guys. It's important to be accountable for your actions when when you let other people down, especially when you're a team leader like I am for the Green Light Pod. I'm really sorry for letting you down, Fitz. I'm really sorry for letting you down, Chris, Reed, Scott, everybody for being late. I apologize. That's my mistake, and it will never happen again. You see how important that is to take accountability for your
Can
actions?
you hit Denzel Mims in the flat?
Yeah, fuck yeah. I can hit
Okay,
that.
somebody get Robert Sala on the phone. Fitzy, right off the bat, just because Beau's late, I think it's a dynamite segue into Zach Wilson. Are you tired of this story? Is this story stupid? Is it overblown? Like, what would you have said?
I think people are piling on extra thick right now. Yes, he needs I said this earlier. He needs to learn how to play quarterback in the NFL. There's some stuff that he just doesn't do right yet, but that interview is part of it. It's part of being a leader. It's part of being accountable. My biggest red flag is what happened last year when he was struggling and they brought in his personal quarterback coach, John Beck from California, and put him on staff to hold his hand and to make sure that everything was okay. And I just feel like he's been coddled a little bit. John's no longer there. And, Zach has had some struggles, but I think that's one of the biggest parts of it is just the accountability part and actually acting like an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I kind of ripped him yesterday, so guilty as charged. I mean, I just thought, with all the plays that defense made, all we want to hear when we go back to the locker room is accountability. That's it. I mean, it's that simple. I'll look past a lot of BS. I've played bad. I've had bad years. You got to stand at the podium and say like, hey, like I need to get better. It's on us. You can even say it's on us. I mean, it's just one of those things, and I agree with you. I did think I thought Boog went a little far last night.
I didn't
surprise.
I didn't see what he said.
The rich kid, the kid who grew up
geez.
rich, doesn't like what Booger said about. Booger said to Steve Young, who ironically had taken a shot at Chris Sims once about being affluent and that factoring into how he plays quarterback. Booger was like, he's not accountable. He grew up with money, so he's not accountable. And Steve Young was like, hold on a minute, player. I don't know. Yeah, it does feel like it's
fellow BYU quarterback, right?
It does feel like they're laying it on a little thick, though. And I also want to raise this one point that he might have had kind of a vendetta against the guy asking him the question. And this doesn't excuse it. Evidently, this guy Connor Hughes, who's a New York media guy, has been on his head, and they have like this really kind of contentious relationship. And I guess him asking him the question, it could have possibly been him being dismissive of the reporter and not realizing what this was going to look like. And I'm certainly not making excuses for the kid. I'm just keeping it real because the context is I mean, it's a real thing.
Yeah, and I would just say I know Connor Hughes, and he is kind of one of those guys every now and again you're seeing the same guys over and over again that'll get under your skin a little bit. I just think, the path moving forward, I don't know if they're benching him or not. I mean, obviously we saw some comments yesterday about everything's on the table, but if it was me with Zach, I would just start having one or two periods every practice where they're going against the defense, whether it's a third down period, whether it's a 2-minute period, the day that you're actually working and going, I would have him stop coddling him, have him go full bore against these guys and have him learn some of those tough lessons in practice, because sometimes this is what always bothered me as a quarterback. Sometimes when confidence isn't high, coaches are going to try to manufacture and script things to where practice is perfect and you're getting the perfect look. And they're telling you beforehand, hey, this is going to be quarters, throw the post. Hey, on this one, let's work on getting the ball out quick to the flat. You're going to get a blitz to the right. And I'm not saying that's what's happening in New York, but that's what happens a lot of times with these young quarterbacks when they're struggling, is you try to script for success in practice, and that doesn't help and transfer into the game. And so that would be one of my solutions. Have him go up against a defense where he doesn't know what's coming, where they're coming at him, where they can talk crap to him. He can give it back to them, and, they can work this thing out on the field a little bit in practice.
Doesn't that come down to the coaches, too, being willing to have a shitty practice? offensively because I feel like
I
coaches
agree.
are way too protective of how their practice goes in a game week. Like they're just, it has to be perfect. They're the most OCD people in the world. And I respect it. There's a lot that needs to get installed and there's looks you got to give and you want players to have success. But, like it feels like winning the battle when the goal should be winning the war, right? I mean, like, hey, we might have a bad Wednesday, but in the long run, this could pay off.
Yeah, so it's much better to have those mistakes and have all of that happen in practice. But it is. I mean, coaches just it ruins their day, it
Yep.
ruins their week. But it's like, let's get all these things out of the way. Let's talk about some of these things. Let's make these mistakes not on Sunday and then go out there and play better on Sunday. I think that's probably part of the issue.
Do you think the mechanics are an issue? Because I'm not a quarterback coach, obviously. I'm not a quarterback, but I can see some of these balls that are sailing or, and I know the wind was bad, but it looks like, hey, kind of nonchalant, back foot, kind of arm angle is weird. Am I being a stickler?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's more. I think it's more mentality. I think if you look at the
Yep.
two New England games, the first New England game, he made some stuff where he was running back, away from the end zone he was going to and throwing off his back foot, and he had the three picks. And it's almost like he went into this game and said, "Look, if I don't throw any interceptions, then it's a win. I'm doing my job." And I just think there's a fear there now of throwing the interceptions because as a quarterback, as long as when you point at that stat sheet, there's no picks, the easiest thing to do is to take a sack because then it's not necessarily your fault. I got pressure or, you hold on to the ball too long. But at least in that case, there's no interception on the stat sheet. And I just feel like some of these young guys aren't confident enough in themselves and they need to get more confident in themselves
Yeah.
to be able to maybe make some of those mistakes. But on the heels of the three interception first New England game, I think the mentality played a lot into that performance on Sunday.
What makes New England so damn tough defensively? Because it feels like there's no world beaters on that defense. I mean, you like Judon. I like Judon. They manufacture a lot of pressure. He's a really good rusher. I mean, they've got young guys and Jack Jones stepping up. They have backers who seem instinctive. Good team defense, like leadership, Devin, but how do they affect people so much? I mean, they seem to affect young quarterbacks. I know they're going to play Minnesota on a short week. It'll be interesting to see what they do to Justin Jefferson. What makes them so good defensively? Everybody's like, oh, Bill's a wizard, but like, what does that mean?
Yeah, and I got two former New England guys here. You guys both bought into it, right, Beau? Part of it is, it's always talked about. They're going to take away, what you're best at. So there was no way they were going to let the Jets run the ball, right? And with that, it's not even that the defense is that complicated. I mean, they're either going to play a version of cover one and be manned up and make you make tough throws, or they're going to play soft zone and make you check it down and make you be patient. And that's kind of it, along with the cover zero. They'll either bring cover zero, they'll bluff it and go out. And, the infamous Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghost, once they find a weakness and once they see something you're struggling with, they're just going to keep attacking it. But for me, they play man coverage so much. They know where their help is. They know where their deficiencies are, and they're really good at it. So I always enjoyed playing them because you know what you're getting, and they're just going to challenge you to make the throws on every single play and to do the right thing. And it's not complex. It's just they will take away what you're good at and make you do something you're not and make you be uncomfortable with that. So I think they do a great job. I mean, this year, maybe more than any of the other ones, is proving to me like Belichick is a great football coach. And, talent wise, they just don't have a lot this year, and they're still continuing to win games.
What do you think they do to Justin tomorrow night? I mean, how if you're a D coordinator, as people are listening to it this Wednesday morning, so tomorrow night, what do they do to Justin on Thursday night?
I mean, they're going to double him. They're going to have somebody jamming him at the line all game. There's going to be somebody probably that follows him. And sometimes what New England does, if they love one of their corners, they'll put him on the second best receiver, and then they'll put their second corner on the best receiver and put a safety over top. So they're going to double him. So as an offensive guy, what do? Well, Justin Jefferson just can't sit outside at the X and get doubled all game. Bring him in motion, put him inside to where it's much harder to double because he's got that two-way go. There's things that you can do to scheme around that. And, We saw that firsthand back in 2015 and 16 with Brandon Marshall. Brandon was so dominant with the Jets. That's what they did. And, if they're going to hard double him all the time, there might be some in pumps and some stuff where you can get the ball to Justin down the field, but they'll have a plan. It's just probably going to involve two guys on them. And so Kevin O'Connell's going to have to counter that by, putting Justin Jefferson inside and moving him around a little bit.
Fitz, I'm kind of pissed, man. I was hoping to shoot the shit with you a little bit before we got the interview started, really get my day going. I was joking with Chris off camera because one time I got his ass real good in Philly on New Year's Eve, kind of tricked him into going to this bar with a lot of people there. He was really unhappy.
Well, it was a lot of 18-year-olds, Beau.
There was a lot of 18 to 20-year-olds. Chris was a little shook. His mom was there, and we joke about it all the time. Does that sound familiar to you at all there, Fitz?
Yeah, well, you told me we were going to a bar, which I'm okay with, but I didn't know that it was full on nightclub with bottle service.
Yeah.
We had like the elevated table where everybody was staring at us. I would say it was a top 5 worst moments, most uncomfortable moments in my life.
That's one of my favorite Fitz memories of all time. Yeah, Fitz, I've seen you, throw 3 picks in a game and not be shook at all, but I've never seen the look of discomfort on your face like at Bar Howard at 2 a.m. that one night. We were at Cam Brate's wedding. Cam's a tight end for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and I hadn't seen Fitz in a while. We were catching up, shooting the shit at the wedding, and he was about to drive home. I said, why don't you I'll drive with you. We can catch up in the car and maybe just stop for one drink over at Bar Howard. And Fitz had no idea, but Bar Howard is like the clubbiest club in Tampa, So we actually, because everyone was going from the wedding over to Bar Howard. And so we beat the party bus there and we walked in and you should have seen the look on Fitz's faces. It was packed. Just absolutely packed with literally 18 to 20-year-olds. Wow. We were the only 2 people in this section that was roped off, and the look of just disbelief. He's like, "This is what people are wearing out these days." It was so.
Well, it was Rip Van Winkle. He hadn't seen the light of day in a while.
That was what got me though. Is I knew I was in trouble. First of all, there was a line at 1:30 in the morning to get in. But then it was girls were wearing G-strings and fishnet stockings. And that was the outfit. And I was like, where are you taking me? And that's to Beau's point too. We were the only ones at the table.
Yeah. Everyone was just staring at Fitz. Who's this guy with this
you guys are dating. Fitz is your sugar daddy or something. When we were we were in Philly and he was like, yeah, let's go out, New Year's Eve. Let's go get some drinks, whatever. I'm like, I got my mom with me. I got my wife with me. Something low key. He's like, yeah, I got the perfect thing. We walk into this club and it's all 18-year-olds. And I come to find out that he got us into that club because he wanted to get his underage sister into a club. That was the whole reason. He sacrificed us for his underage sister.
He used you as a pawn.
We went to this no ID club, and that's how I that's how I spent my New Year's Eve. And the worst part is, I don't know, Fitzy, for you, if you were ever comfortable with people rolling up to your table with sparklers, but I feel like that just makes me cringe every time now that I'm in that situation. I don't know what it is that there was some threshold in our life, around 34, or maybe it was retiring and feeling like you're unworthy of the sparklers. But now every time there's sparklers coming at me in my table, I feel ashamed. I feel fucking self-conscious.
I've never been to a club. That was the only time I've ever been to a club, ever. Never been to a nightclub in my life. So I didn't even know the sparkler thing existed. It's just not part of who I am, Mr. Long, okay? It's just not what I want to do. So when the sparklers came out, and again, just me and Beau at the table. Just me and Beau with sparklers, holding hands, looking at everybody. It was so uncomfortable.
No, that's what Beau will do. Put you in uncomfortable spots. No, it's good.
I got another question for you, Fitz. There's no Amazon Prime Thursday night game. You got Thanksgiving off this week, right? So I want to know what you're doing over at the Fitz house. What do you and the kids got going on? Big Thanksgiving traditions? Who's doing the turkey? Liza's doing the turkey. What do we got? Talk to me.
Well, yeah, so this one's big because not only is it our first time in Arizona doing Thanksgiving, but since we're best friends, Beau, you would remember that it's my 40th birthday on Thanksgiving this year. So thank you.
Of
for
course.
leaving that out
I
of the
already
question.
wished him a
But
happy
yeah,
birthday.
yeah, thank you, Chris. But this is big because now we've
No
got
problem.
everybody kind of descending on the house. I've the last like 5 years fallen into the role of I'm the turkey fryer. So I man the fryer outside, keep everybody away. Every now and again, somebody will bring me another beer, and we
Yeah.
just get to sit and talk. But I'm kind of away from the chaos a little bit, so it's a job that I've come to enjoy on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
What's
that's a good role to have.
Is there
Yeah.
we talk about code breaks a lot on this show, like things that are just unspoken rules that people can't violate. Is there like a Thanksgiving code break for you, Fitzy? And where would you rank Thanksgiving among the holidays?
So I'm a little bit biased because my birthday is right there. I love Thanksgiving. I would say probably Christmas one, Thanksgiving two. Uh, Although I'm a big Halloween guy, we had a big haunted house this year with some jump scares, which was fun. But I don't know. I mean, the
Jump
one thing that
scares.
bothers me, yeah, my teenagers didn't go out this year to trick or treat. They were the jump scares, which was fun. What was not fun was me buying 10 mannequins, and every time they ship one to the house, my wife being like, another one, another mannequin. What are we doing with these mannequins?
People.
Hey, you don't have enough fucking people around your house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now,
What would it be
we're
like
gonna-
if we had 14 children?
Yeah,
Prop
exactly.
these things up all over the house.
No, so Chris, my brother lives next door to me,
Unbelievable.
and he has 5 kids. So we literally have 12 kids like in and out of the house all day.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Goodness gracious.
It's a compound. Thanksgiving meal is just another day for you guys.
Yeah.
You know, just having turkey tonight.
It's good. We were talking about this, Fitzy. It's good to have some time off, right? Because it's been a grind. Like it sounds like it's a lot of fun, but you do have to travel every week, which is something that we don't think about. Like we're like, okay, there's Fitzy on the set, but we don't think about like how everybody's got to get there and leave, and it feels like it's probably a little bit. I don't know. In football, I feel like we had schedules and it was very routine and you knew what we were doing. How's the media lifestyle been as an adjustment for you?
Yeah, it's been really good, but that's the thing you don't think about is there aren't any home games, so you're getting half of your games at home as a player. These
Yeah.
are all away games. So it's always, we were joking earlier, I travel on Wednesday, we do the deal Thursday, I get home on Friday. With soccer tournaments and whatever else going on Saturday, Sunday, it just feels like I'm already checking in for my next flight, for the next week, when Tuesday rolls around. So it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed it. I think part of it is just being part of a new team with Sherm and with Witt and with Carissa and Tony, just good people, fun to work with. We've kind of developed a good bond. And then the things that you don't think about, the behind the scenes, like as players, we love the equipment guys and the trainers, and you really get to know everybody in that building. This is the same way. It's the guys behind the camera, it's the producers, it's the makeup artist, and it's just a really tight, cohesive group. Yes, I do get makeup.
They got
though.
you in makeup and hair now, huh, Fitz?
Oh, I need it. I need it bad.
Come
I
a
need it
long way
bad.
since Fat Tony.
Yeah, I've come a long way. Shout out Fat Tony. Best haircut, best mustache trim you've ever had, Beau.
You look good up there. You look good. And the fits. I need to go see Fat Tony. The fits are impeccable up there. Like people, you don't have to wear a suit, which is a big plus. It seems like Whitworth, he's got it down to a science with the sport coat and the hoodie under there.
Yeah,
is there an outfit you want back yet this year?
Yeah, there's probably a couple, but it's just part of my thing. I mean, there's so many plain dress people with the nice, collar and the suit, and Witt's got his deal. He went away from the hoodie 1 week, and it was just like, what are you doing? He went like button down, with a collar. It's like, Witt, you have like a cult following. His closet is just like straight hoodies. But I like it. I like looking a little bit different up there and wearing goofy stuff. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Favorite city you guys have traveled to so far that surprised you as an analyst / fan of the game now? Because you played in these cities, but what I've found is like going to watch a game's a totally different experience and probably analyzing it as well.
Yeah, we took in Arizona my kids are in year-round school, which at first I thought was a bummer, short in summer, but it's so hot in the summer. They put these 2-week breaks kind of throughout the year. So we had fall break when we were in Chicago. So I brought the whole family out to Chicago. And to your point, like I played in Chicago, but you're there, you're not seeing much. We spent the whole week there, and it was a phenomenal city. We loved it. We did all the touristy stuff. We went all around, got great weather, and that was probably my favorite trip so far.
Was that the most unwatchable game, ironically, of the Thursday night lineup so far? And the Thursday night games have taken some shit because they haven't all been great.
No, and we had some initially that looked like they were going to be good. I mean, if you're looking at the beginning of the year and you saw Indy and Denver on the schedule, you're thinking, boy, that's going to be a good one. Maybe not necessarily the Chicago-Washington game, but there's been a couple that on paper were going to be good that have turned out not to be great. But we went through a string there where, I mean, some of those games were absolutely unwatchable. Just no offense. It wasn't good defense. It was just really bad offense. Thankfully, we've got some coming up here to end the season that are going to be good. And last week for us was Green Bay, Tennessee. So just in Lambeau, we had the snow falling. Tennessee came out and played really well. That was really fun to watch.
Yeah, it was a gorgeous game to watch on TV too. One of the guys that you've gotten to, in unfortunately the week you guys saw Miami play, Tua got hurt, but he's had such a great year. Like, how do you explain to people what he does well in that offense? I mean, he's obviously distributing the football really well. He's finding the open guys. He's thrown some people open. I think he's made some real leaps. What do you see when you look at Tua, because you played with him and he is having a great year?
Yeah, he's having a great year. It's good to see him healthy. I mean, that was, our week was the week that he had the real bad posturing and the fencing posture, and it was just scary to see him go off on a stretcher, and, took some time away and has been back and completely healthy, which has been nice to see. But, with Tua, he has a coach that 100% believes in him, which is, something that he didn't have before. He has an offense that is 100% tailored to him, and he has some of the best weapons in the NFL. But Tua needs to live in that box right over, like between the hashes or between the numbers, that 5 to 20-yard range. He's absolutely deadly when he's throwing in that box. And this offense, there's so much play action. There's so many throws where he's leading guys into that space and has been great at it all year. And then just to throw in somebody like Tyreek, I think, it was amazing to see Tyreek in Kansas City, but I now have him on a completely different level watching him play this year because he's absolutely unstoppable. And the energy he brings to that team and the things that he does. And the scary thing is, last game Tyreek had like 45 yards. They're starting to score 30-plus points, and It's not all centered around Tyreek, which Tua's having a great year. And if he lives inside of that box, like over the middle of the field, then he's a really efficient, accurate quarterback.
Yeah, he's been really dynamite right in that space. I mean, that's and you don't have to win outside the numbers, do you, in the NFL? I mean, like it's nobody's taken that space away yet.
Yeah, and it's shocking that they haven't, but he keeps. It's like every game you watch, it's not even. I mean, guys are wide open, and I think part of that is, they talk about the genius of Mike McDaniel and his scheme and some of the stuff he does with runs and, pulling different linemen, and they've got it dialed in right now to where it's really starting to come together. That running game is finally really starting to hit. So it's been really exciting to watch.
Yep. Jeff Wilson's been great. Yeah, Jeff Wilson's been great. And on the other side of things, you talked about Tyreek. Like, I had a hard time evaluating him because I knew he was great, but I just didn't know how the marriage would work down there, because you assume, like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is going to get the most out of Tyreek. But in a sense, I feel like, and you've heard Patrick say this, is like I have to really go through my progression now. And, I'm really just throwing it to the open guy. Whereas before, I think, you have this dynamic player. Matter of fact, you have two of them in Travis and Tyreek. And you're like, where is he? Like have you ever felt like I've got such a good player it's distracting as a quarterback?
Yeah, well, and you get pressured by a little bit too. You go to the sideline and that said player, we'll throw Brandon Marshall's name in there again, is like giving you the side eye, because some of these guys too, they're so smart, and like they know when it's one-on-one that you're making the decision not to throw to them. Like, okay, me and whoever it was on the other side had the same route. The safety was in the middle of the field, and the ball's not coming my way. So that plays into it a little bit as a quarterback, where you're like, oh man, I gotta get this guy the ball next time we have that look. But um, to your point about going through his progressions and everything else with Mahomes, I would still throw to Travis Kelce a lot, because my God, he is so good, and it like I just don't even like, it's so subtle too. Some of his wiggle and everything else, like he's such an amazing football player, and we're pretty lucky to be watching him in the prime of his career.
The other guy on the other side of, and Mahomes to me is the MVP. I mean, there's a lot can happen between now and the end of the season, but what he's done is amazing, and it was encapsulated Sunday night. Like, just the fire that he plays with. The ball he threw to Fortson just stuck in my head. Like just hit him in the ear hole. I mean, like you can't place that ball any better. They're so deadly with those crossers, and that mesh route at the end of the game was like, what can you do? It's just, you got Derwin James on you. But on the other side of things, Justin Herbert leads this big comeback drive, and it's like, what do I have to do? To beat these guys, and that drive should be enough, but it's not. And then he gets the ball back with 30 seconds and throws a pick. But it was going to be tough to overcome that. What do you make of Justin Herbert's development? Because some people have reasonably criticized maybe them not getting the most out of him, maybe too many checkdowns, and then some people have been really hyperbolic as of late and been like, "Oh, this guy's trash. He's a social media quarterback." I don't know what that means, but what do you make of the conversation around Justin Herbert?
Yeah, so we got to see him. Our first game of the year was Kansas City and the Chargers, and that was the game that he ended up getting hurt. Hurt his ribs or whatever the exact injury was, and I mean, I am screaming at Staley to take him out, because he can't even stand up. He can't even call a play. He's doing like the Rocky IV, where his ribs are broken or whatever it is. He's hunched over. And then on like 4th and 10, he uncorks this absolute dime down the middle of the field for like 35, 40 yards. And that told me almost everything I needed to know about him, because I think he's a quiet guy. There's some leadership questions there, but like those guys love playing with him. And that right there, and what he did for his team, that told me a lot about it. That being said, like the yards per attempt, when you look at them throwing the ball 40 and 50 times a game and being under 300 yards passing, it's just tough to see, because he's so talented. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have been hurt. Like they haven't had their two top dogs, but they still need to put the ball down the field more. And some of that probably is coaching. Some of that is his mentality, but I would like to see them be more aggressive. I'd like to see them use his athleticism a little bit more. But that is a very big man, just shaking his head. I mean, he's tall. He's obviously, he's got the California good looks, like you like to go after, Beau. And he just, he's a smart player. Right. He's very diligent, like loves practice, loves working after practice. So he has all those characteristics, but we just got to start putting the ball down the field a little bit more, please.
Yeah, I so agree with you.
I got something for you, Fitz, if we can shift gears here a little bit. You a little disappointed that they switched the snow game to Detroit last week? I mean, I know we've talked before how much you loved your time in Buffalo, and you like those cold weather games. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, I personally would have loved to have seen that. What do you think?
Yeah, it would have been incredible. I think logistically it just wasn't going to work out. But that, like, first of all, for Buffalo to lose a home game is tough. For those fans to lose a chance to go watch their team, I know everybody there hated it, but the logistics, unless everybody was coming in and out on.
Guy. You're Bill's Mafia.
I'm a Buffalo. I mean, I might have been there with my shirt off. Who knows? Doing snow angels in the end zone. But we have them. We have them next week. Unfortunately, it's not in Buffalo. It's in New England. But I can't wait to watch my man Josh Allen play. But yeah, that was a bummer. My buddies were sending me pictures. they'd open the garage and have their kids stand with the snow behind them, and then 3 hours later they send me another one and another one, and it was, I mean, it was true whiteout conditions for sure.
Well, I remember the video of you. I think you went to the Bills game. Was it the AFC wild card game or something like that with Brady? And you were in the stands with the fans. You had your shirt off. What do you think? You got some more of that in you this year or what?
Well, so so Brady is my oldest son, not named after Tom Brady. Thank you for that question and pointing that out, whoever that was. So Brady,
yeah, I was gonna try to slip that one in there. Big Brady fan.
Yeah. So Brady and my
wait, hold on a second. Where did we land? Were you that motherfucker, Fitzy? Fitzy, were you that motherfucker?
Dude, you know what? Like, I feel like there's no doubt that I was that guy. And, Tom came out, and I'm glad he's thinking about me. He said that, like, oh, no, it definitely wasn't him. But Tom has lied before. He's lied before. So I will still put myself, I still want to make T-shirts.
That's too good, man. That's too good. I mean, yeah. Do you even feel bad? Does your, I don't know if it's disdain or what, but like, have you felt bad for Brady this year? Like, just with everything that's gone on with the injuries and the whole thing, like, are we allowed to feel bad for somebody who's had such a good life?
I don't know, because I mean, he's, it's been such a obviously wonderful career, but like, he's had it good for so long, so it's okay. It's okay that we get to see a little bit of struggle, and every now and again, like, when they're not winning games, he's not throwing for 300. Like, we're allowed to smile.
This is a hating ass pod, and I love it.
I mean, this guy.
These are three of the biggest fucking haters.
Hey, listen, that motherfucker's struggling.
Yeah.
Right, Fitzy?
Fitz has been watching the Tampa Bay Bucks struggle a little bit this year. They're sticking with this motherfucker.
What was your question about Brady, Beau? I just had to ask.
I was just trying to slip that in there because you saw it coming a mile away. But I was gonna be like, oh, by the way, you named your firstborn son after one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, huh?
Jesus.
I was just waiting for that. I had that whole scripted out, and you saw
not a Beau in the whole conversion van. Not a single Beau. Not a single Beau in the whole conversion van. He didn't name anybody Beau.
Not yet. He's still got. I think there's 3 or 4 more Fitzes on the way, though.
Do you have a conversion van, Fitzy? I feel like people know this. Do you like, with all the churn? Do you have to like buy different vehicles and that sort of thing?
Yeah. So when we went from 6 to 7, it was the first time we had to think about whether we were going to have another kid or not, because we no longer fit in a normal minivan. So that was a big decision for us. Like, are we going away from the normal Mini? So we went with the Nissan Envy. And people ask all the time, like, well, why didn't you get a Mercedes Sprinter? Like, because, like, I mean, Chris, goldfish smashed everywhere. Like, you find a dirty diaper like 3 weeks later. I just needed something that we could mess up, that we could beat up. We wouldn't care about it. And, my youngest is now 3. We're starting to get to the point where maybe we could upgrade to a nicer vehicle. But that thing has done the trick the last 3 or 4 years for us.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
What kind of games? So when Fitz and I were in Tampa together, I'd pop over to his house. We'd play some Catan, Settlers of Catan, some Exploding Kittens. Just Beau and Fitz and some of the boys. What kind of games are we rocking with lately? And Fitz and I would play ping pong for hours at the stadium.
Just a couple Exploding Kings.
Yeah. So what kind of games are we rocking with lately? What do you think I need to brush up on before I come over to the house next, so I can dominate you and your kids?
No, I mean, we've been, with the girls kind of getting a little bit older, and getting interested. A lot of Skippo. You might have to catch up on your Skippo and your Phase 10.
Ooh.
But yeah, Settlers, that's still a big one. But then also, we're the older boys are starting to convert to, like some of the video game stuff, which is great, but it's taken away daddy time in playing some of these games, which is a little bit of a bummer. Splendor is another one I want you to look up and kind of get into, because we will take you down in some Splendor.
I'll look that up.
Yeah.
What's going on with
love
pickleball? It's all I hear about now. It's all the rage. People are buying pickleball teams. Fitzy's
Yeah, let's
playing
buy a pickleball
pickleball.
team,
Beau
Fitz.
talks about it. What's going on with pickleball?
Well, you might need Chris's money, not mine. Chris was what were you, the second pick overall? So I know it wasn't
Second.
QB money,
Yeah,
but yeah,
and
I
then
was,
signed a big deal as well. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I'm not forgetting that. And plus the lucrative podcast. So.
I got that 7th round bread, boy.
Yeah, I'm with you, Butter King. Dude, Beau and I were going to get together and play some pickleball when I was in town for the Tampa game. It just didn't end up happening, which I feel like that happens a lot. Hey, let's get together and do some exercise or something. Oh no, meet me at the bar and we'll have a couple beers. Okay, yeah. So that's how that went too. We didn't get to play pickle.
Whose idea was that, my friend? Who was it that wanted to play pickleball, and who was it that was at the bar? You tell me.
Well, we had like 3 hours together, so I did not want to spend an hour watching you stretch, an hour with you telling me about your new pickleball racket and the equipment that you wear, and then 30 minutes playing pickleball. So
this is great.
Yeah, that's valid.
This is
I
great.
understand that. I'm gonna come to Arizona and absolutely fucking whoop your ass. I'm gonna dink you up and down. I'm gonna smash in your face.
You guys.
Oh, it'll be like ping pong in the locker room all over again.
You guys, man. I mean, you and your pickleball. We'll see if I ever do anything like that. Hey, Fitzy, I wanted to ask you about scariest rushers, and not like the most effective ones, because like, hey, Micah Parsons has less sacks than Matt Judon right now. Micah Parsons objectively scares the shit out of me. You know, like
yeah.
He's just when you're a quarterback. We talked about this the other day. You randomly sent me a picture of me hitting you in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, did that hurt? Do you remember if that hurt? Like, do you remember hits that hurt? Do you remember who scared you the most? Like, what makes a scary rusher?
So I told you the two hits that hurt the most, James Harrison and London Fletcher. Those two guys, multiple rib fractures, that whole deal. They were short, they were compact. I feel like the scariest rushers, and Harrison was one of these guys, they don't talk much. Like, I'm okay with the guys that are jabbering and coming at you and saying all that, but like, he was kind of this silent assassin that it always seemed like he had a screw loose. And just seemed like he wanted to injure you on every play. And so I think mentality more. I mean, Myles Garrett, you play against him and he looks unbelievable. But that mentality of like, I'm trying to kill you, I'm trying to end your life, and I'm not going to talk much about it. I'm just going to have a mean face on. Those were always the guys for me that were most intimidating. Your buddy Brandon Graham's a big talker, right? Like, Brandon's a good player, big talker, but like,
he talks a lot. He smiles.
Yeah. But Fletcher Cox always really
like the
scared
Aaron
me.
Donalds were like, this guy might actually.
Well, because he's so fucking big and powerful. It's just like, that's the thing about the D tackles, and when they land on you, and that's what, out of all these quarterback rules, I mean, obviously you don't want to get hit in the head. But are you a fan of the, hey, no putting your weight into my chest, or would you trade that? Like, if you had to take one away, no getting hit below the knees, no getting hit in the chest, you had to pick one as a quarterback, like one luxury to have. The reality, you guys get everything, but like, say you could just pick one. Which one do you take?
I think the landing on the quarterback rule is tough, right? I mean, I know, like, it's all about the safety of the quarterback, and like, nobody wants to see Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen injured. Like, that's why we all watch these games. But that's one I would be fine if they took out. You can't put your full body weight on the quarterback. I think that's tough for you guys. And we're seeing it now. Like, sometimes guys are taking quarterbacks down and kind of letting up, and then all of a sudden they're escaping and getting out of the sack.
Yeah, you'll see them kind of get up like this.
Yeah. Yeah, or they're doing that to where they're like, okay, don't throw a flag on me, please. That's one I don't really love.
What about like one guy that's in my thoughts right now, and I'm being serious, is Matt Stafford, because he's had 2 weeks in a row. I don't know if he's in concussion protocol right now, but like, he had a concussion a couple weeks ago. He came out of the game last week with maybe a head injury, right, Reed? It was a head injury. And I mean, concussions are scary anyways, but it's like, what are you playing for? I look at Matt Stafford and I'm like, you've done everything I just respect his career so much and what he overcame and then what he was able to do last year. And that team is so bad right now. And like, you've been a veteran quarterback. Obviously, your circumstances were often different where you're like, I got to suit up. But like, if you're Matt Stafford right now, how do you feel about trotting back out there if you're worried about your head? You've had 2 dings in a row, and this team's not very good. Like, is this a situation where a quarterback might be like, hey, for my health, let's punt to next year?
Yeah, and I think that's a decision that can be made by the quarterback and his family. I think that's a decision that a team could make too. I think, potentially a coach or a GM can say, look, this is where we're at right now. We're not very good. We're going to get somebody else in there. Like, we're looking at long-term health right here. And I don't know that that's going to happen or not, but that team, it's hard when you look at that team. They went all in last year. They won the whole thing, but okay, well, how are they going to get better? They don't have any draft picks. They went after a guy like Brian Burns and are trying to mortgage the future out even more. But I just, there's no short-term fix for that team right now because they don't really have any resources to do it. So I think it's a scary proposition for them for the future years as well. But yeah, at this point, Cooper Kupp's out. Stafford's having some injuries. They've got nobody up front. They've been killed on the offensive line. They're 3-7 or wherever they are. It's a tough proposition to finish out that season when you're talking about head injuries.
And then up north in Seattle, and it feels like we've stopped talking about them because they've had the bye. They had Germany, where they came back down to earth a little bit. They were such a hot team for a while, and they still are. It's a good football team. I have concerns about the defense, but Geno, man, what a great story. I mean, you probably know as well as anybody what goes into him biding his time and waiting. Like, obviously, you didn't have to wait long. You stayed fresh, but to gather rust or to improve, like, I feel like is what faces a guy who's sitting in a meeting room. Like, you probably have a decision to make. Like, am I going to approach this like I'm going to have an opportunity to play, or am I punching a clock? And obviously, he's been in his bag, so to speak, ready to pounce on that opportunity. What goes into pouncing on that opportunity for a guy who hasn't played for a number of years and looks like he's playing his best football?
Yeah, it's been an incredible story. And just, to go back to 2015 was the year, that he much talked about breaks his jaw. And then I end up playing that whole year. I end up being the starter. The next year, I get benched at one point for Geno. Geno comes in and tears his ACL. And so, after that, he bounced around Chargers, Giants, a couple different teams. But really, like, part of his thing, I think he's just matured. And each stop that he's made, he's matured. He's continued to develop the mental side of it because it was never, his ability to throw the football has always been unbelievable. As quarterbacks, he could spin that thing. Like, the ball comes out of his hand, and he's one of those guys I look at when he throws and it's like, how am I playing the same position that he is, because that's not what it looks like when I throw the football, and it's not effortless like that. But it's a testament to him. It's a testament to how much he has matured over the last 6, 7, 8 years and sticking with it. But yeah, it's great. And that Seattle team, Sherm is filling me in every week, but they're young. They hit on a bunch of rookies this year. Pete Carroll's done a great job. They were left to dead before the season even started. So I'm really happy for Geno. I'm happy to see how they finish out the season. But there's a lot of talent on it, young talent on that roster.
Last thing on QBs, because I love what you said about Geno, like the fact that it's not just, hey, some like underachiever, or it's not some overachiever story. It's like, he can throw the football. He's always been able to throw the football. And I don't think that's something I really knew. Like, I just always kind of assumed that he wasn't that great of a thrower and, there was some maturity issues, but you're saying he can really spin it. Who are some guys in the NFL that you would like buy low and you think can spin it, but maybe right now it's not working out for?
Zach Wilson could spin it. The ball comes off of his hand and it is effortless. Didn't look like it on Sunday, but you're just talking strictly on arm talent. He's a guy that just jumps off the page when you watch him throw. The guys that I've always loved, we always see Aaron Rodgers and talk about Aaron Rodgers and the effortless throwing. But Stafford, like, forever has been one of my favorite quarterbacks because of the way the ball comes out of his hand and because of his mentality. He's fearless, all that. I'm just trying to think of some of these young guys. Yeah, I mean that's where I would be at. I mean, Zach Wilson's the guy that can throw the crap out of the ball, but obviously maybe needs some time with some of the maturity stuff.
Do you like Heineke? You played with him.
Love Taylor, man, and a lot of Taylor. I mean, it's the intangibles. It's the team just feels different when he's in the lineup, and statistically, if you go and compare Carson Wentz and Taylor Heineke, they're not all that different. I mean, they're probably pretty similar in terms of the stats, but people play for Taylor, and it's a great story, and he's a lovable guy, and you just know every time you're on the field, he's going to give you everything he has. And look, he's not going to be the long-term starter anywhere.
Is there a quarterback that Heineke might remind you of a little bit that you can think of off the top of your head? Just a gritty guy. The team loves him. Kind of puts it all out there on the field. Surprisingly mobile.
Well, I will.
Has a funny little swag to him.
I will say, Butter King, I have no tattoos. I've got a full head of hair, very luscious, and I don't drink Busch Light. So there are some similarities, maybe, but there's also some big differences.
Bro, but you never got everybody Jordans, Fitzy. I never saw you getting everybody Jordans, bro.
No, and I bet you Taylor's probably been to a few nightclubs too, so there's some differences.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I want to leave Fitzy on this thing here, and I just found this out before. Now, I don't know if you know this, Beau, but when I was in St. Louis, I think, and hey, you be my guest here, Fitzy, to weigh in, but the facilities were not great. I mean, like, you've been to a bunch of facilities in the NFL. You've worked at different places. Like, we were eating Mexican food one day. We were eating Chinese food the next day. We were in, like, Subway the next day. Like, we never had good food. The facilities were jacked up. I think there was, like, toxic waste brewing up the hill from where we were breathing pathogens in. But there was this beautiful gas station across the street. It was an Exxon where I used to stop and get dip and wrap snacks and all types of stuff, little trinkets. And it turns out that Fitzy got engaged in Earth City, Missouri at the Exxon across the street from said facility. Did you know that about him, Beau? That he's romantic as fuck?
I did know that. I've spent a lot of hours with getting to know my boy Fitz over at Wright's Deli over a board game or over board games and cribbage. And so I did happen to know that. And we talk about your beautiful wife, Meg. Yeah. Fitz's beautiful wife, Liza. Absolute beast on the Peloton. She's got 7 kids. She is a fucking saint. So that's how romance is born.
I can tell you're afraid of both our wives. Fitzy, tell us about what went into proposing at a gas station.
Well, the full story is it was connected to a McDonald's. And so it was very classy. We
about that.
Yeah, we were going to get something to eat. I had bought the ring earlier in the day. They thought they double charged her at the Gap. I was making good money as a 7th round pick, so we shopped at places like the Gap for coats. So I decided to treat my boo to a little light pink $112 coat probably. So we were going to check. She wanted to make sure that they didn't double charge her. And I'm like, well, I just bought a ring on that same account. We had a joint account at the time. And so I'm asking her all these places, hey, let's go to Ruth Chris. Let's go somewhere in Clayton, Ladue, whatever. And she's just looking at me like, let's go to McDonald's. Like, okay, let's go to McDonald's. And I did it there, like in between bites. I think she got like the 10-piece nugget, and it's like sweet and sour sauce. And I'm like, oh, great. Like, but if, Beau knows Liza very well. Just kind of her personality, who she is. The thing is, and what I tell my kids all the time, and this is with my career as well, let's don't set high expectations right away. Make sure that bar is here so you're always exceeding expectations. So that's kind of what I've done in my marriage as well. Yeah, so we may, I think we may go to, I don't know, like an Olive Garden or something to celebrate our 20th anniversary coming up.
First date, Chili's. Is that, and then what was,
Yeah.
how does Wendy's factor into this?
Wendy's was our first
date?
Valentine's. Yeah, first Valentine's Day was Wendy's. First Valentine's
Oh.
Day. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Does that count as a public proposal there, Fitzy, at the McDonald's in Earth City? There's a lot of people that come through there. It's a throughway for I-70.
Yeah, but we had our own secluded booth. I made sure to get the nice one in the back, with the red light over top. So it was a real romantic scene. Good vibes.
Like VIP booth.
Yeah. Right by
brought out the 10-piece nugs with some sprinklers.
There was an Albert Pujols jersey like right next to where we were too.
That's
Oh, we got to go back to the scene. We got to do an E60. What if I told you a family of 12 would start at a McDonald's? Hey, man,
place.
That is just beautiful. Magical, indeed, man, indeed. Ryan Fitzpatrick, media mogul, great player, loved playing against Fitzy, and one of Beau's best friends. I'm sorry to hear that, Ryan, but you've been gracious with your time.
Yeah,
thank you guys.
We could talk to you all day. I don't know I think I told you this when I saw you, Fitz, but you're actually my first sack in the NFL. I figured that out recently. Me and Brandon Bear combined on a sack. Held the ball a little long in I think it was Houston in 2014 or 2015.
Are you sure you didn't just clean beat your guy and get to me quickly, Beau? No, I held the ball a little bit.
I think it was like, first down, 22 personnel kind of thing.
I definitely beat that guy in New York clean. He definitely didn't pat the ball too long at the end of that Jets game. Hey, and I've traced it back, Fitzy. I mean, that was a clean win, but I appreciate the one pat. I traced it back in 2016 when we beat you guys in New York. That is the start of the streak, the Patriots-Jets losing streak. It's, what is it, 14 in a row. And so, you and me, look at us. Look at us.
Look at us.
We started that.
Good stuff, man. Good
stuff. A little bit of history for you. Love you, man. Good to see you, buddy.
Appreciate you, Fitz.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.